Hey, how's it going? I'm Jesse. Welcome to my garage. I compete in ultra endurance and bikepacking races. I just recently finished up a race here in Oregon called the Odyssey of the Bog, put on by my friends Ben Handrich and Seth Dubois. It was the first year of their race. It was 350 miles of really rugged mountainous terrain in the Oregon Coast Range, starting and ending in Salem. So pretty far west of where I live in Bend. I live in the desert, the high desert, and Salem and the Coast Range are on the west side of the Cascades. I wanted to make a quick video about the stuff that I carried, the things that worked well for me, the things that didn't work super well, and here we go. So this is the bike. It's a Myrad Windigo. Custom geometry, titanium frame, designed by myself and my friend Alex, who also races this kind of racing. Alex is based in Frankfurt, Germany, and he and I both race bikepacking races on the same bike. He has his set up with flat bars, and I have mine set up with drop bars. So it's always interesting when we compete in the same races to see who does better. Usually him. So I've got a kind of a mishmash of bags. The frame bag is a custom designed frame bag by Loam Equipment based out of Bellingham, Washington. It is beautiful and works super well. It's got exactly the right number of pockets where I want them to be, space for all the different little things that we'll get into here in a minute. I use a Toptube bag, Revelate Designs MagTank. It has this handy flicky buckle thing that works super well. And then two Rockgeist bags. I have a Rockgeist Foxglove saddlebag, and then a Rockgeist stake Downtube bag that carries all of my first aid and repair kit stuff. I'm not going to get too in depth with the repair kit because it's kind of, basic stuff that everybody should be carrying anyway. I've made a couple of Instagram posts about that, so if you want to deep dive in the repair kit, you can do that on Instagram. Basically, I keep layers and the bulk of my food in the frame bag, and then stuff that I need throughout the day, like snacks and things, go in the Toptube bag. I keep my phone in my jersey pocket, and like my wallet typically would be in a jersey pocket as well. So the Toptube bag is pretty much just for snacks that I'll want throughout the day. The saddlebag has all of the gear in it. And we'll open that up and take a look in a minute. The frame bag though, when I strip layers, so usually, races start in the morning, so I'm wearing arm warmers, leg warmers, and maybe a wind vest. And as the day gets warmer, I'll strip off some of those layers and kind of stuff them into the frame bag so I don't really have to stop in order to take them off or put them back on. And then I also keep my gloves, warm gloves go in there, toilet paper, hand sanitizer, my hygiene stuff, which is kind of a lot. I know a lot of people during races like this don't really carry too much in the way of body maintenance, but I like to. It makes me feel like a person to brush and floss my teeth, but I've got caffeine pills, I've got a spare pair of contacts in there, I have an emergency space blanket if I need it, a pair of earplugs if I'm going to be sleeping somewhere where it's super unpleasant, I've got a little knife with scissors, things like that. Moleskin always comes in handy, like if you get blisters. And I've got, kind of your typical ibuprofen. I have a couple of pain pills in there in case something really bad happens. There's a needle and thread too if I rip something open on my arm or leg. I can sew it up if needed. I've never done that and hopefully never have to. What else? I've got, my water filter. So for this race, I actually didn't end up using this at all. there was so much like fast flowing and clean looking water that I just drank the water, which normally wouldn't recommend. I've had Giardia and it is terrible, but the coast range doesn't have a whole lot of agriculture going on, so you don't have to worry too much about like cow poop getting in your water and making you sick, fortunately. So I didn't end up using this for the race at all, but I was glad to have it just in case something happened and I really needed it. Oh, and then I carry a tube that's just a standard butyl tube. I run Cushcore in the rear and tubeless in both tires, 60 TPI tires, so I use really heavy tires, kind of knowing that they're going to slow me down a little bit, but it's still faster than it would be to fix a flat every couple of miles. So I just carry one tube just in case my front goes. The rear likely isn't going to go, especially with the Cushcore in there. And I also carry plugs just in case I do get a nasty flat. And same thing, I carry upholstery thread in case I get a big hole in my tire. So that's what goes in the main pocket of the frame bag. On the back side, on the non-drive side, I have my battery pack. It's a 10,000 milliamp hour RavPower battery pack. I've got like 6 of these things and just kind of rotate through them depending on the race. Sometimes I'll carry 2 depending on how long the race is. And then I've got my USB cord that goes to my headlight. So if something happens and I'm moving too slowly during the night, like during a hike-a-bike section or something, I can just plug my light directly into the USB power, because otherwise the front light is running just off of the Dynamo hub. So if the Dynamo hub isn't producing enough electricity because I'm not moving fast enough, then I can use the battery as backup. What else we got here? Oh, I've got small pocket knife, just a little 3-inch blade pocket knife for opening packages and things like that. I have my Dynaplug racer. I've used this a couple of times just on like short trips out for the day. Actually, the last time I was in the Coast Range before the race, I used it to plug a friend's tire. And then, I've got a spare derailleur battery. I run the SRAM Axis drivetrain. I have a force axis shifters up front and a mountain rear derailleur, the XO1 axis rear derailleur with a 1050 tooth rear cassette and a 36 tooth up front for drivetrain. So I only have one battery for the rear derailleur. This race was only 350 miles, So I only carried the one spare battery. Typically I'd carry the charger and at least 2 spare batteries. But for this race, I knew one battery should get me through, and if not, then 2 would be fine. What else is in here? I've got my toolkit. I use a Silka tie torque wrench with the individual bits. So I pull the bits out of the like leather carrying case that it comes in, and I put them in this little screwdriver bit holder. I really like this multi-tool. It has like transforms into different shapes so that you can use it to get at different bolts that you otherwise wouldn't be able to with like a straight on kind of thing. And it also has a torque wrench attachment that's not super accurate, I don't think, but it gets close enough that I'm not overly concerned with it causing any kind of damage or anything. I think that's all for the frame bag. And then up front, I have a Wahoo Roam that I use for navigation, powered by the Sinewave beacon. My headlight acts as an inverter, So power coming from the Dynamo hub goes into the light, powers the light, and then I can also use that power to charge other devices. So it's super handy and doesn't really require any kind of mental load. Like I just keep the Wahoo plugged in 24/7, and the Dynamo just continuously charges the Wahoo. If I'm moving really slowly or something, I can just disconnect the Wahoo real quick, and it gives me a little bit extra light, or like prioritizes the light, so the light runs just a little bit brighter. I didn't have to do that for this race, fortunately. It was all pretty rideable and pretty fast. I really like aero bars. I have my aero bars mounted to a Fred bar up at the front. The Fred bar puts the arm cups back and up from the handlebars. So it basically acts as a second stem onto which just the aero bars bolt. The aero bars, I don't really use them for aerodynamic benefit. It's primarily for comfort, like just being able to take some pressure off of my hands on like long pavement stretches and things. I've got Salsa cow chipper handlebars, 44 centimeter width. Like I mentioned, I use the force axis shifters paired with cable brakes. I really like mechanical disc brakes. I run Paul clampers front and rear, which are, in my opinion, the best mechanical brakes you can buy. I don't want to mess with hydraulic stuff or anything when I'm way out in the field. For a race like this where it's relatively short and there's a couple of bike shops along the route, it's not too big of a deal, but like I did Atlas Mountain Race last year, for something like that, I definitely want to be able to service my own brakes and not have to carry a bleed kit and things like that. I know a lot of people don't even bother carrying a bleed kit. It's just more for my own mental assuredness. Okay, so let's crack this open. So first and foremost, the gear that I used is all on top now. And my puffy jacket I wore at night, the first night. It's a Enlightened Equipment Torrid Apex jacket, so synthetic insulation, doesn't have a hood, because I don't want to deal with the insulated hood flapping around behind me while I'm riding. It's got super lightweight material on the inside and then a little bit heavier duty on the outside. It's got a couple of holes in it, and I've washed it a bunch, so it's kind of compressing a little bit, but it's not too bad. So I used that. Fortunately, I did not have to use anything else out of my saddlebag. This is my rain shell jacket, which I carried just in case it was going to rain. The coast range does get a lot of rain. Fortunately, for the weekend of the race, the conditions could not have been better. I think it got down to like 45 degrees Fahrenheit overnight, but not a drop of rain fell. It was hot during the day, but this is a Montbell Versalite. Montbell is a sponsor for Northwest Competitive Adventure, the team that I raced for. So I got a decent deal on that stuff. It's my favorite rain jacket. I think it's 7.5 ounces. And it's just super lightweight, super waterproof. I've taken this thing all over the world now. Wore it for a 3-day rainstorm in Spain, and had no issues at all. What else? I've got synthetic pants. Basically brought these just in case I had to go to sleep. I didn't bring a sleeping bag or much of a shelter at all, but I really like having synthetic pants because I can get out of the bivy. I carry an emergency bivy. That's the last thing that's in here. So I can get out of my emergency bivy and still keep these on so I stay warm. I don't get that kind of foggy, hazy, I just want to stay cuddled up in the bivy. I'm able to just jump up because I have everything that's warm already on. So if I did have to sleep, it would have been in the puffy pants and the puffy jacket. And then finally, I've got this guy. This is my emergency bivy. It's a SOL Escape Bivy. It's kind of breathable, I guess, or ostensibly it's breathable. Mostly it's like the reflective mylar kind of material on the inside. Basically just adds a couple of degrees of warmth to pair with the puffy stuff. Generally, I wouldn't use this if the forecast called for any kind of rain at all. And if I plan to sleep. This race I finished in 38 hours and 53 minutes. So didn't stop for longer than an hour or so at any one point. And the longer stops were resupplies. I forgot my wallet at the start of the race. So I was unable to resupply until almost mile 200. I think mile 180 it was, in Tillamook. So I got to Tillamook, which is, kind of around the midpoint of the race, sort of planning that I was going to scratch there. I was going to end my race. But I couldn't find a hotel to sleep in, and I didn't want to sleep in this terrible bivvy. So I was like, okay, fine, I'm just going to carry on. I'll stop at this gas station and I'll try and remember my credit card number and like recite it to the cash register guy. So I went into the gas station, asked the guy if I could do that, and he's like, no, I can't even manually enter stuff. But if you have Google Pay on your phone, you can use that to pay for stuff. Like, what? I thought you just used Google Pay to buy apps on the App Store. But it turns out like it saves your credit card information to your phone so you can like do the contactless payment. So that completely saved my race. Like a switch was flipped from that point forward. I bought as much garbage food as I could, like so much really, really terribly salty beef jerky. Because at that point I was 4 hours that I hadn't had food at all. I bought another jar of peanut butter. I had eaten an entire jar of peanut butter by 7 p.m. the first day. And so the first 12 hours of the race, I had eaten an entire jar of peanut butter. So I bought a bunch of food. I popped a caffeine pill, felt completely rejuvenated, and hammered on through the night. So I had gotten to Tillamook at around midnight. And then, was able to resupply and then carried on for the rest of the race. So, don't forget your wallet. It was a rookie mistake, and I was pretty embarrassed about it. And it cost me a couple of hours of like faffing around with stuff and being unable to resupply and like constantly worrying that I was going to run out of food and then actually running out of food. I had decided at one point that I was just going to ride really slowly so that I wouldn't have to eat so much to stay fueled. And then, unfortunately, I rode really slowly, but I still ate everything that I thought I would. So, it was kind of a bummer. So that's what goes in the saddlebag. Only other things to go over, I think, my water carry system. I use 2 1-liter bottles on the fork blades, and that's it. I think pretty much everyone who was racing carried more water than I did. I ended up having to fill up a little bit more frequently, but it was that much lighter on the climbs that I was able to save my knees a little bit for the race. I have a third bottle cage down on the Downtube that I use just to carry peanut butter. So a jar conveniently fits right in there. I ran Maxxis Icon tires that were a little bit on the old side. Like I'd say they're probably about ready to replace now. I actually have a second pair ready to go on here. Icons were definitely overkill for the terrain that I was traveling through, but they're the tires that I'm the most confident in. I know how they handle in pretty much all conditions, and so definitely could have gotten away with like a slightly faster 2.0. These are 2.2s, so I probably could have gotten away with like what are these? These are Sparwoods. Sparwoods probably would have been a little bit better to throw on there, or even Thunderberts. I have those on the other bike. Something that's just a little bit faster rolling on the pavement. These are super slow on pavement. They're very loud on the pavement too. Like you can hear them sticking to the tarmac, which is a little bit annoying. Yeah, that's about it. The bike treated me super well. I didn't have any kind of mechanical issues whatsoever. The Wahoo crashed on me twice and just had to restart it. But I had the route on my phone also on Ride with GPS, so I was able to continue riding while the Wahoo restarted. It's kind of new that it's been doing that, and I was not the only person that was using that navigation device and had the same issue. There were a couple of people who were racing who had a Wahoo Roam and ran into problems with it. As far as my clothing goes, I typically just race in standard like Aero road racing kit. Bib shorts, a wool base layer, short sleeve Aero jersey, and then arm warmers and leg warmers. For this race, I wore some very lightweight leg warmers that don't do a whole lot of warming. They just really protect you from the sun. And then standard cycling cap. And then I carry a pair of clear lenses with me, and then a pair of sunglasses. I race in a Smith. This is a Smith Overtake helmet, onto which I've attached a black diamond headlamp. The headlamp's new. I don't remember what model it is. I had a Petzl Tikka on there before, and it didn't cast nearly as much light as this one does. I just have it zip tied to the front of the helmet, like going through the Colroyd padding. And then this is a GoPro mount in case I ever want to film anything while I'm racing. I don't generally do that. And shoes, I like, these are CD Defenders. I've raced in these all over the world, and they're hands down my favorite bikepacking racing shoes. They're great if you have like a long hike-a-bike. They've got nice sticky rubber, plenty of grip. The boa closure works super well, or it's CD's version of the boa closure. It has this kind of padded ankle, so it's standard low ankle on the outside, and then on the inside it has that kind of padded bit, I think, because it's meant for racing like enduro. And so you want to make sure your ankles are protected when you're pushing the bike up stuff. I don't know. But it works really well for protecting my ankle from the crank arm. The standard like darn tough wool socks with liners underneath, and then Pactimo Raptor bibs. I was not crazy about them for this race. I don't know if it was the heat or something, but I was putting chamois butter on religiously and still ended up with some horrendous chafing, which was super uncomfortable. I carry I wear a buff around my neck. I ended up by the finish of the race, I had the buff stuffed down the front of my bibs, just trying to protect everything from the chafing monster that had gotten to me. Bike was great, race was great. Like I said, I finished in 38 hours and 53 minutes. I took second to a local guy named Abdul, who was just a monster, so fast. He flatted, he slept 40 minutes, and he still beat me. So congrats to Abdul. He definitely earned that finish, that super strong finish. Yeah, so thanks for coming. Hope I can do more stuff like this in the future. People ask me often, like, what do I carry? What stuff do I suggest using? What decisions do I make? Things like that. And I see a lot of videos on people's setups for like bikepacking trips, like going on tours and stuff. And so I thought it would be beneficial for folks to see what my like racing setup looks like for a 350-mile bikepacking race. If it was, you know, a longer race that had fewer resupply options and things like that, I have a completely different setup that I carry with me. Like my loadout for Atlas Mountain Race was a lot more substantial. I had a handlebar bag and everything. But yeah, for a 350-mile race where I don't plan on sleeping at all, this works super well, and it definitely worked out well for me for this race. Thanks, everybody.